What up, folks? Once again, it's your boy Tim with another ride sharing video. Simply put, we need something new. As you can see, the video is titled, What Could Make Ride Sharing Better for Drivers? And it's simple. We need something new. Obviously, Uber was the granddaddy of them all, came along. And ride sharing is not a bad idea. Ride sharing certainly could work if implemented properly. So what would make it better for the drivers? Well, we had Lyft come along, and we were hoping that Lyft would answer some of the flaws that many drivers found in Uber. Poor customer service, obviously paying people shitty wages and things like that. What ended up happening? Lyft came along for a slight time, paid a little bit more, gave a little bit better service standard, and they ended up falling right back into the lines of Uber. The problem is Uber has set the benchmark. They have set the bar for what you can do in ride sharing. And unfortunately for us drivers, they have proven time in and time again that you can pay people like shit and not run out of people willing to work for it. Uber has shown, and I've talked to you guys on many of my videos about how my market started out in 2014, $2.20 per mile to the driver, and now they're paying in the mid-70s, I think 72, 73 cents per mile to the driver. And there are no shortage of drivers. Yeah, sometimes it's a little challenging to find a ride, but for the most part, if you get on the app and you use Uber or Lyft, a driver will come to you, and they're operating off of a 72, 73 cents per mile earnings, where they used to receive $2.20. So Uber has set the benchmark so low for us that it is going to be challenging to find another avenue where someone's going to come in and pay properly. Why is that? Greed. If you get into a business, your primary goal is to make money. That's what the average CEO focuses on. So even if you get into the business and your intentions are to do good, Uber has shown that you don't have to do that good. Uber has shown that you can keep lowering the amount you're paying for labor, and labor will keep showing up. And this is also why, and it is almost Thanksgiving here. Happy holidays to you guys that are watching. This is why these little temporary strikes will not work. First of all, everybody doesn't strike. Second of all, the ride-sharing companies, Uber and Lyft, realize that all you got to do is wait it out a day or two, and they'll all come back. Fact is, most drivers, or many of the drivers operating on these platforms, are financially desperate. So the ride-sharing companies drowning in cash know that they can only hold out for a day or two before they're going to come back to us anyway. So at the very worst, yeah, it might be difficult for some of our customers to get a ride for 2 or 3 days, but most of these drivers that are trying to, go on strikes and teach us a lesson, as they begin becoming more desperate for cash, they're going to come right back. So what could we actually do to go around this? Well, we need a company that is, for the most part, ran by somebody who used to drive. And that is where the challenge is. Because, like I said, a CEO is going to operate based on the bottom line, how to make money. They're not doing this from a sympathy aspect. They're not doing it from an aspect of being merciful to drivers. They're doing it to make as much money as they can. And that's what the average business owner does. They put profit above all else. Hell, some businesses will put your safety in your life even below the profit margin. If making a profit puts your life in danger, there's no shortage of companies like Philip Morris and Exxon that'll do that. So in this business, it's the same way. Profit reigns supreme. So the first item to even begin to make this successful is you need someone that used to do it. And that's going to be difficult because there's not a lot of people who used to drive for ride sharing that are making enough to really own a decent company. But folks who were in the game knows how challenging it is for people who drive. So that would be the first aspect. Second, I heard someone recommend this, and I'll throw it out there. If you operate a barbershop or a hair salon or a nail shop or something like that, you generally pay for what they call a booth. So you can cut all the hair you want to, but you pay the landlord of the shop. Let's say you pay him $300 a week, every week, and you can come in here and cut as much hair as you want, and all of the money you make from cutting hair, you keep. That landlord makes the $300 a month. That's what he makes for having a booth there for you to cut hair. That's the way ride sharing needs to work. You pay a flat fee. It can be per day, it can be per week, or whatever time frame. But let's say per day. You, as a condition to log into the app, you have to approve a $20, $30, $40 charge, or whatever the case may be. You pay $40 or you pay $30 and you can drive, you can have access to the app for 10 hours. And over the course of the 10 hours, they're going to send you trips, and you get to keep all of the money from those trips. The app makes $40. In a case like that, I believe ride sharing could actually work. It could actually work. I mean, obviously the makers of the app is getting a guaranteed $40 from all drivers every single day. And that gives the driver an incentive to make sure they're available, because they need to get the hell out there and make that $40 plus a profit to make it worthwhile. So anybody logging into the app and paying that $40 or whatever the daily charge is, you can be assured they're going to be operating for a substantial period of time to make that money back. That would be the first thing. Obviously, the second thing is you got to, well, I would say you got to charge more for the fares that the passengers are paying, but I don't believe that. I don't really think so. I don't think at this point, and you guys can let me know what you think in the comments, if the passengers, the price they're paying for rides now, are they still substantially cheaper than taxis? I understand that it is cheaper to ride an Uber or a Lyft than a taxi, but it's not by that much as like it used to be. And it's mainly because the greed factor from the ride-sharing companies like Uber and Lyft has continued to increase. They've taxed us as much as they possibly can. You got drivers that are literally driving for around minimum wage. So the only other way to make more money has been to raise the passenger fare and keep that increase as well. But they've pushed the rates for drivers. The take-home pay from drivers is so low, they really cannot drop that anymore. So they're actually making money on the other end by charging the passengers more and keeping most of the proceeds from that. But I do strongly believe that if you could have someone who used to drive and literally create an app that ran the way I suggested, where you charge a flat rate for drivers that are going to drive for a specified period of time, I think it could work. Because now you see, I mean, not only that, but the driver would know, like I said, I got to pay $30, $40 to drive for the day, and they could budget their time and things like that. Now, this obviously changes things from the side hustle, temporary aspect of working part-time. I'm a part-time driver. I say it all the time. I refuse to drive for base fares, so I only drive when they're offering bonuses, surges, streaks, or something of that nature. And they don't offer that 100% of the time, so I don't drive full-time. And if you're paying rates like what I'm talking about, $30, $40, $50 a day or whatever the hell it may be to have access to the app, you're not going to make enough money to do it part-time. There's no way you're going to pay $40 to get access to the app to drive for 2 hours. I suppose they could charge you $5 or $10. It might work that way, but it probably, for what I'm describing, probably would work better for drivers who do this full-time. And it would make it more profitable for them. Because right now, I honestly do not get how drivers do this full-time. If you're doing this in a market where there's not a ridiculous amount of surges, and a lot of the bigger markets, Chicago, DC, LA, they're always in surge pricing. But if you drive for the smaller markets, you know, Madison, Wisconsin, or Montgomery, Alabama, or Jackson, Mississippi somewhere, where you're not getting big surges, I don't see how anyone in those towns drive full-time. And I get that on the comments every time I post a video for, well, I make a lot of money and I'm doing it based for, and you ask them where you're located, it's in one of those big cities. I'm in Las Vegas, where 90% of my rides are in the surge pricing. Well, then, yeah, you're getting some kind of a bonus. I'm talking about people who are driving for base fare, which for most of the ride-sharing markets in this country, it's under $1. In some cases, it's well under $1. Last time I checked Orlando, Florida, booming tourist destination was paying a base fare of 61 cents per mile. You're going to have to do a hell of a lot of driving to make a serious amount of money off of 61 cents a mile. And when you look at how much gas wear and tear, you're still not profiting. So for folks who do it full time, I'd love to hear in the comments how the hell you're getting by if you're not doing it in one of those markets where it's always in surge. And there is a lot of markets out there where the price is, you don't get in surge pricing very often. For instance, there's a case in the news right now of 4 college kids losing their lives to some victim in Idaho. And they talked about whether the victims took an Uber, took a ride-sharing car home in Boise, Idaho. There's no surge pricing in Boise, Idaho. So I'm talking about towns like that. If you're driving full-time in Boise, Idaho, you're not making shit. I'm talking about towns like that. So this is what I'm suggesting. Like I said, what do you guys think? You think that might have some possibility of working where they charge you a set fee and let you drive for a specific amount of hours on the app? I mentioned 30, 40 bucks. Let's say they charge you $5 an hour. We'll give you access to the app in literally in hour blocks. Every hour you drive, at the beginning of the hour, we'll charge whatever bank account, or we can charge your Uber card because you got money coming from the rides. And at the beginning of the hour, you get charged $5. And it resets your time period, and you can buy them in blocks. The problem is, like I said in the beginning of the video, with Uber showing other business prospects how greedy they can be due to the desperation of drivers, this is only going to work if you have a company that is just not trying to gouge everybody. Because what will end up happening is, okay, we'll charge you a certain period of time, but on Saturdays and Sundays when you can make more, we're going to charge you more. It's shit like that makes this not work, is because you have so much greed coming from the companies you drive for. And until we find some kind of way of coming up with an equal medium where both driver and company can be focused on making a profit, and not company trying to take as much of the profit at the driver's expense as they can, none of this shit's going to work. And that's the market we live in right now, is that the company is constantly really scheming against the driver on how much more of the passenger's fare they can take. So I've said this in previous videos. The lack of transparency is causing a lot of this. For instance, you shouldn't be able to make any change to the fare at all. And I'm talking about Uber and Lyft. They should not be able to make any change to the fares at all without either the city government or maybe drivers voting on it and getting approval. They should not just be able to change the shit overnight, because they're doing all of that in their own best interest. All of that is being done in their own best interest. Because if, let's say, Uber or Lyft decides we're not making enough, so we're going to charge the passengers an additional $1 surcharge on every single fare. And we're going to keep the whole dollar, which is exactly what happens in a lot of markets. As a driver, that affects you. There are going to be passengers that are going to see that extra $1 and think, well, I'll catch the bus. Or maybe I'll ride my bike or my scooter, or maybe I won't take a trip today. So that extra money they're charging is probably going to cost you a little bit of customers on the back end. It might be minuscule, but it's not going to benefit you at all if they keep the money. But because a few people may decide not to ride share at all because the price is going up, that costs your bottom line. So it's little things like that the drivers should have some say-so in. Because every time they raise the price, it's costing you customers. And if you're not benefiting from it at all, why the hell would you want it? So that would be the first thing. Let the drivers have some say-so. If not the drivers, then let it be decided by city council like they did with the taxis. And that way the drivers could vote for city council members and make sure that their voices are heard. Right now, our voices as drivers are not heard. That's why they don't give a shit about us. The customers' voices are heard because they can literally go back to riding taxis, catch the bus, walk, or whatever. So they care about what the passenger thinks. They don't care nothing about what you as a driver think, because there's another driver waiting to take your slot at any given time. And if you don't leave, they'll drive alongside you and saturate the market. which is probably the next issue, which is they should have a limitation, which would come from the city, I suppose. A limitation on how many people can be out ride sharing at any given time. I mean, that's the way the taxis used to do it. There's only so many medallions you can give out. Because if everybody can drive, then you're going to have a hell of a lot of people sitting around waiting for rides. There's just not enough passengers if you let everybody in the game. But because they're not paying shit, I guess it kind of works right now for them and not for us. What do you guys think? Let me know if you believe that such a ride-sharing business could work where you pay a set fee similar to like a barber pays a fee to operate a booth in a barbershop. And then that way they get to keep the money. If for some reason the 30, 40, 50 bucks a day or whatever, you could always give Uber or Lyft. Okay, so you get the 40, 50 bucks per day I log into the app plus $1 per ride. Every passenger gets in my vehicle, you also get $1 out of that or something like that. I could see that having more value than what we're doing now, which is damn near demoralizing, where you drive somebody from point A to point B and they get out your vehicle and you look at how much you got paid for what you've done and you just feel like, why the hell am I doing this? Let me know in the comments, what is the worst you've ever seen? What is the worst you've ever, in regards to, what is the worst you've ever felt like when you took someone somewhere and saw what you got paid? You know, let's say you drove 50 miles and when you got out, you realized you made 16 bucks. Let me know some of your horror stories. I want to see that because I'm curious. I'm assuming it's not just happening in the markets I'm discussing. I'm assuming this shit is happening everywhere. But subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bells as usual. We talk about this stuff all the time. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. It's your boy Tim. I'm out.